Hello everybody, welcome back to another election prediction video. This time we're doing the 2024 Senate map for the month of January 2024. So just a few more months until the election in November. But again, some things have changed, some endorsements have happened, some candidates have indicated that they are running. So let's get right into this. So the safe Republican states. Again, they have a pretty high floor in this election just because of the Senate maps being very unfavorable to Democrats. Manchin has announced he is not running for re-election here, so West Virginia is a safe Republican. Doesn't matter what Democrat they run here. Jim Justice is very likely to be the candidate to take over from there. He is a former Democrat, so it's not completely terrible for Democrats there. It's not going to be someone who's super partisan, because Jim Justice, again, he has some left-wing beliefs. So let's get right into this. So Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, she frequently overperforms in elections. Highly doubt it gets to likely blue. Most elections she wins by 15 to 20 points. I expect that in 2024. I don't think it's going to be competitive at all. Virginia, Hung Kao, he's just... If you've seen some of his recent statements, I mean, especially about that congresswoman who's sadly dying of a disease. I mean, attacking her, that's just an extremely bad taste, and I don't think that's going to work out for him in the state of Virginia. Even if he's the nominee, I expect him to still get blown out. I think he's pretty much lost all credibility with those statements as a formidable candidate like I thought he was. And not to mention, I don't even think he is going to be the nominee in Virginia. Other Republicans are out fundraising him and have more endorsements, so I doubt he's going to be the nominee here for Republicans. And I have this race as a safety race either way, because I do think Tim Kaine will be quite easily able to win re-election here. He's not, he doesn't have huge unfavorables. He's quite above in positivity and favorables in this state. State of Maine, Angus King's running for re-election, just a safe Democratic or safe Independent hold. New Mexico, same as well. I don't think any good Republican candidates are running here, so I have that as a safe Democratic hold as well. The state of Florida, I have this as a likely Republican race. Again, even though Rick Scott is quite unfavorable in the approval polls, it doesn't really matter if the Republican candidate's winning by a likely Republican margin. That'll just carry him to a likely Republican victory. With Texas, Ted Cruz. Again, he has a quite large unfavorability problem here. So Colin Allred, he gets a higher suburban and urban turnout. I really think we'll see Texas be more competitive in the Senate race than the presidential race. I was debating about putting as likely Republican, but then again, if you run a much stronger Democrat than like Joe Biden, you run someone stronger than him, someone much younger, I think they could get Texas to a lean Republican margin. So I pretty much have Ted Cruz winning by about 4.5% or so, very close to the likely Republican rating. Who knows, I might shift it to that in the future, but I still think Colin Allred will be able to turn out enough minorities, Latino voters, black voters in this state. He would get pretty large urban turnout that shifts this state into a lean Republican race. Again, Ted Cruz saw this level of competitiveness back in 2018, so he really isn't that popular in the state of Texas. Okay, so still there's 7 toss-ups for the Democrats still, which is pretty bad for them, but the floor realistically is 44 seats. They're still going to hold on in Pennsylvania no matter what. Bob Casey is a very popular Democrat in this state. Nearly all the polls against potential Republican candidates here, Bob Casey is just pretty much easily beating any Republican named there. So again, I think he holds on here regardless of who wins Pennsylvania in the 2024 election. Moving on to Michigan, Elissa Slotkin's very likely to be the nominee. She's a proven candidate. She won in a competitive House district a few times in Michigan, so I think she'll be able to do it again. Regardless of what the presidential race turns out in Michigan, I still think she's very favored to win here in the Senate seat. Going on to Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin. She's a popular incumbent Democrat, and there's really no good Republican candidates running against her in this race, so I have this race as a lean blue one. Moving on to Arizona, in 3-way races, Gallagher's winning every single poll, except for that one Republican internal that came out a few days ago. Again, I highly doubt the results of that Republican internal. I'm pretty sure it was done by the Lake campaign, because the National Republican Senate Committee did a poll in Arizona, and they had Lake losing by quite a bit, like 4 or 5 points, because Sinema's just taking away so much Republicans away from her, because Sinema has a trash approval rating among Democrats. She has a higher approval rating with Republicans than Dems as well. So, again, Lake is just a very, very weak candidate. She has negative favorables in this state. Sinema actually hurts her. And Gallagher actually has positive favorables in the state of Arizona. So I have this as a lean blue race. Highly doubt Kari Lake's going to win. She's just a very unpopular candidate in the state of Arizona. Moving on to Nevada. Again, the incumbent Democrat here is probably very favored. I don't think Republicans will be able to win here, considering the National Republican Senate Committee had a poll out showing the Democrat leading by around 5 points or so. So I also have this as a lean blue race. And we're moving on to the two most competitive races in the 2024 Senate cycle, Montana and Ohio. The news with Ohio is that Trump endorsed Bernie Moreno, who is the weakest candidate for the Ohio Senate race. He has the lowest polling numbers out of any of the candidates. I mean, you could blame that on name ID, but there's a certain point where you really can't. I just think, just based on all the data we have, Sherrod Brown's in that much better of a position to hold on in the state of Ohio. So I currently have this race still as a tilt blue race. Again, there's a bit of uncertainty here. It depends on how much Biden loses to Trump in the state of Ohio. If he loses by like more than 10, it'll be very tough for Sherrod Brown to win. It's still possible. There's still a lot of ticket splitters in Ohio, like we've seen in the governor race and Senate race, that they still exist. But it makes it that much harder, and that's the main reason I'm rating as tilt blue. If this was like a midterm year, and it was just Bernie Moreno versus Sherrod Brown, it would just be a lean blue race. But since it's a presidential year, it's going to be a lot more competitive, just because of Trump doing very well in Ohio, I would say, in the 2024 election. And that's the main reason I only have it as tilt blue. I don't think people should rate it as lean blue unless Bernie Moreno just starts losing by bigger and bigger margins in the polls. So that's my reasoning for tilt blue Ohio. With Montana, as I'm making this video, Rosendale's still quite iffy about running the Montana Senate race. It really looks like he's going to run, like he's prepping for it. He keeps making these videos, like sort of talking about potentially running or hinting at it in those videos. Again, if Rosendale is the nominee, he would totally lose to Tester. He's been defeated before, and Senate matchups before. In the past, if it's a rematch between the same candidates, like 6 years later, the challenger that lost before usually loses again, like 90% of the time. So if it's a rematch between these two candidates, Rosendale would probably lose, even if Trump wins by a pretty large margin. Montana, it's a ticket-splitting state. And Tester has a very high approval rating over Rosendale. He was defeated by Tester before. He could totally get defeated again, and that's just the history of rematches in American politics. However, I don't even think Rosendale is going to win the nomination. A lot of polls have come out in the Montana Senate race showing Tim Sheehy beating Rosendale in the primary polls. I mean, a lot of Republicans on Twitter I see are basically saying that they don't think they don't think Rosendale should run because they're worried he would lose, and he would lose his House seat as a result of that, because he won't be in Congress anymore if he runs for Senate. So, again, I think Sheehy's probably going to be a Republican nominee, even if Rosendale runs, because I just think Sheehy would beat him. He has the money behind him. He has the PAC money, more endorsements from senators. And I think Sheehy, as a fresh, clean slate candidate, he has a much better chance of beating Jon Tester in here, even with his high approval ratings. And you wouldn't have that rematch case right there, because usually in a rematch, the challenger always loses to the incumbent. So I have Montana as a tilt Republican race. And Republicans narrowly retake the Senate. Odds are they probably do. They could also even win Ohio. Let's say they actually nominate someone better than Bernie Moreno, then would probably be tilt Republican, especially if it's LaRose. LaRose would probably be their best candidate. If he was the nominee, would be tilt Republican in Ohio. But so far, I think Moreno's going to be the nominee just based on that pretty big Trump endorsement, which would definitely rain heavy in the Ohio Senate race. So other than that, Republicans have like I would say a 56% chance at winning the Senate, while Democrats have a 44% chance. Again, Republicans are narrowly favored. There's a lot more toss-up Democratic states than there are toss-up Republican ones. Only one being Texas, and that's a huge stretch to say Democrats could win there. I mean, I'm being quite generous to them, even giving it as a a lean Republican race. But again, Republicans are the massive favorites for the Senate race, and let me know what you guys have for your Senate maps in the comments below. Like, let me know which states you disagree with, which states you think the margins should be a bit bigger for either side. I'm curious in that type of feedback, and yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.